Hey guys, this is the Case for Pace coming back to you with another year in review of all 30 teams, and we are on to the Sacramento Kings, or as Shaq would call them, the Sacramento Queens.
Yeah, I think the new ownership group wants it to be called the Sacramento Kings, but
that's pathetic.
Alright, that's it. Alright. But no, I mean, Shaq is one of the owners of the team back in 2004 and now too.
Yeah, I guess. Or don't you mean 2002?
Well, he still owned it in 2004 as well. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, this team is interesting to me. But now let's go with some more recent news. Do you like the firing of George Karl?
And who they replaced him with?
Yeah.
I really love, was it David Yeager again?
Yeah,
David Yeager. I actually like it.
I like David Yeager. I thought he was a really smart guy. He's one of the great young coaches. He's really a young guy.
He had a horrible situation in Memphis, though.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that pretty much all his team got injured at one point in the season, and they had almost 20 guys on their roster at one point or another.
That team set the record for most different amount of players used on a roster.
That's unbelievable. I feel bad for the guy because he, like you say, he's in a horrible situation. This past year in Memphis, and then he, goes off, to.
Well, now he's going to Sacramento, so it's even worse.
It potentially could be, but we're looking at this. Well, you're looking at this roster though, and this roster is actually not too shabby. They got the offense. They got the offense, definitely. And that's not the issue. That is definitely not the issue. We have so much offense on this team. The issue where they're lacking is.
I never thought offense was the problem.
It's their defense that's just atrocious. It's. They give up 109 points a game. Now, the thing about it that I think is really interesting with this hiring of this coach is his defensive background. I think that's very important to this team that just lacks complete discipline on that end. And you want to turn a guy like DeMarcus Cousins. I think he's one coach that will be able to coach DeMarcus Cousins into a defensive force down low.
Yeah, if they let him coach him. Because the last guy who could actually coach Cousins was fired halfway through. So it's more Kings drama. But no, I really do like what they did. I like that move because it's just, Yeager he didn't run a great offensive system, but it was kind of an old school offensive system, a grinded out mentality. And that's the type of identity that the Kings need. Honestly, they need to be grinded. They need to actually be engaged. They need to have a team that'll get down in the trenches and really work, and they got a lot of pieces that can do that. I really do think.
Yeah, I totally agree. They have a lot of physical, players out there. Cousins, he definitely plays physical on the offensive end. What's that?
And Quincy Acey, he's a physical, scrappy player. Willie Cauley-Stein is going to be a very scrappy player. Kufis is kind of a garbage guy. He'll get some of the tougher jobs done. This Rondo, he's scrappy too. He just got a lot of guys that are gonna bump and grind, and I love that kind of basketball, and with that new mentality, that new mindset, And hopefully with the new team's logo, it'll change the identity of this team all the way around.
Yeah, I really hope so. I think the one thing, and we mentioned it in a segment earlier, this, at the beginning of when we started this podcast, I think the one thing that, like a lot of other teams kind of stuck in this position, the one thing that's holding them back is just could be one or two players. I think that one player right now is Rudy Gay, though. He's not lived up to his contract. For a guy that's being
close.
Yeah. A guy that's what was he getting paid? 12 a year?
How about 20 when he came over?
He's getting paid 20? I did not even realize he was getting paid that much.
Yeah.
And he's not even averaging, over 20 points a game. He was supposed to be that second guy.
He was making over $1 million per point that he scored per game.
He was supposed to be that second guy to DeMarcus Cousins, but he was
supposed to be the first guy. If you remember correctly, when they traded for him, DeMarcus Cousins hadn't become elite yet. He was a dominant center, but he wasn't an elite player. Rudy Gay was meant to be their elite scorer, while Cousins was supposed to be one of their guys they play to. Rudy Gay is completely underperformed in every sense of the word. Again, his contract says it all. He's getting paid more than $1 million per point per game that he's getting, and he was brought in to score.
Exactly.
Come on, man. Seriously. Like he never got back to that. What was his best number? I want to check actually. His best was his last year in
I think it was 24. It may have been 24 a game.
Actually, those were his worst numbers. But in Sacramento, he was doing all right in 14-15.
Yeah, I mean, for his career, he averages 18.4 a game, which it's what he averaged last season, was a little bit lower, but
17.2. Yeah, and that was the one that got me really upset. Is because he was averaging 17 points per game and making like $18.5 million. I was like, what? No, man.
Dude, I'm looking at his averages per season, and actually, I was wrong on his highs. He's never averaged more than 21 a game.
Yeah, last season he was actually not last season, but 2 seasons ago in 14-15, he actually had a pretty good year, but he was hurt so much. That was the other problem. His numbers are a little inflated, and his turnovers they're up from they're down from that year previous, but they're up from they've gone down this season by almost a turnover per game.
Dude,
he's turning it over almost 3 times per game.
He's really been the odd journeyman looking at his way through the league. He started off at Memphis, then he went to Toronto for 1 year, came back to Memphis, then went to Sacramento, then went to Toronto.
He was traded halfway through the season. Yeah.
Then he went to Toronto, and then next year he went back to Sacramento. I mean,
well, I think he got traded to Sacramento. Do you remember that deal? Who else was in that deal? I think Quincy Acey and Rudy Gay were in that deal for Chuck Hayes. It was a really weird deal. I was always wondering why. I think Toronto was just trying to dump salary. Rudy Gay was just kind of dead weight to him, so they just tried to do a little salary dump.
And he still is to his team right now.
Yeah, and I think, actually, funny enough, Patrick Patterson, I think, came over in that deal.
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Patterson came over from Sacramento. So, and Grievous Vasquez, that was the other guy. Grievous Vasquez was in that deal. He came over to Toronto, if you remember that.
I think I do, yeah. He's still 29. He's still 29 years old, so I mean, he's still got a little bit left in the tank.
Yeah.
It's not like he's completely dropped off. He's consistently averaged around 19 points per game during his, his career, except for his rookie year. I mean, he's been, one of those great second-tier guys in this league,
Yeah, I agree, and his 3-point percentage has been it's been pretty good. It's been dropping off, and it's really made me think. Like his field goal percentage is up, but his 3-point percentage is almost down 1.5%. I mean, it's just he's not hitting his threes and he's not hitting his jump shot. This is the type of guy who could be averaging 25 per game. Honestly,
he could be.
Rudy is too good to not be averaging those numbers. I'm just blown away and baffled. And again, you got to think about how much they're paying him. They were paying him $20 million.
You know what I could be intrigued to see. If they're really considering shopping him this offseason, what if they paired him? What if they shopped him and their first round draft pick for somebody?
I can see that, yeah.
I think that would be a great decision. I mean, there's a lot of great power forwards you can go after.
Or small forwards that you can get.
Yeah. I think they're more in need of a power forward, but
Ooh, interesting. I just thought about this. What if they traded into Boston?
Okay.
You trade for let's say let's see, maybe like their would you trade I've got Damari Carroll on my mind, but who's the other?
Oh, I have no idea, man.
Well, no, sorry, I've got Damari Carroll on my mind, but who's the guy Jay Crowder, sorry,
Jay Crowder. Yeah, I mean they're pretty similar, so that's why it's.
Yeah, you trade what, Jay Crowder and one of your other guys, maybe Sullinger, and you trade Rudy Gay and that.
I feel like Boston would have to give up a lot more for Rudy Gay though, just to match up the contract though.
But I mean, do you then Boston say they trade that number 3 pick and they get the 8th pick with Rudy Gay? So you trade the number 3 pick Sullinger and Jay Crowder and maybe another little piece. They got more than enough assets, honestly. They got a ton of draft.
I think it does in a sense benefit both teams because it gives Boston, that second scorer they've been looking for outside of Isaiah Thomas.
Well, and then you look and you see all of a sudden the Lakers take Dragan Bender for some ridiculous reason, like somebody said they might. Do you take somebody like Ingram or Simmons? I mean, you could change around your entire look on the franchise basically in one draft. I mean, this is the type of draft that's really top heavy, and it's got a couple pieces intermittent in between, but you've got a couple pieces that could really change your franchise here in Sacramento.
I agree.
I feel like if you're able to tap into one of those things, even if you end up with somebody like Jaylen Brown, or if you end up with somebody like Jamal Murray, another small forward.
You need a player that's going to truly live up to his potential as a complementary player to DeMarcus Cousins.
And you can use Rudy Gay to tap into that and get another.
He's a great leverage tool for this team if they're planning on shopping him.
He's got a pretty reasonable contract now because they were able to sign him for less. So I think he's only making $12 million this season. But that's a more than easily movable contract. And you can get some residual value and talent out of that. And that can really propel your team to the next level or even take it up just another notch. You can make the playoffs. I mean, honestly, that's a realistic belief in that. If you trade Rudy Gay away and get another young piece or young talent, they should really be shopping him around and see what mold their options and see what they can do, man. I really do wholeheartedly believe that.
I totally agree, man. I think they, once again, I think, I guess to sum things up, the two things that this team really improved on so far in this offseason. They got David Yeager, which is a huge step for their defense, which needs to improve first and foremost. And I think if we're considering the possibility of their draft selection, I think they're in a really good place, whether they keep the 8th pick or not. If they don't keep the 8th pick, I do definitely see them shopping Rudy Gay somehow. But if they do, there's a lot of different options from the 3 and 4 spot that they can definitely pick out that would benefit them immediately.
Absolutely. All right. So who are your two prospects here for Sacramento that you would see them draft?
Well, since I'm looking at like power forwards, as their biggest need, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm a little unsure about Henry Ellenson. I know he stretches the floor, but he just doesn't. He doesn't really bring that defensive mentality that they're really looking for. I think a guy like Deontay Davis, possibly.
Yeah.
He's really strong in that area. He's a really great shot blocker. I think, he's just one of those tough and gritty guys that comes from the Big Ten Conference out of Michigan State. I think that's one thing this team needs is toughness. If you want to rein in a new era for Sacramento basketball, with the new logo and everything, you could even go after a guy like Jacob Podol. Try to make up for the mistakes and shortcomings that Kufos had this past year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different possibilities. I mean, you could even go after oh gosh. We mentioned his name before. Sabonis, even possibly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great options out there. But I think with those picks, I mean, you can't go wrong at the big position. Now, I think if you're looking at any sort of shooting position, they really have so much shooting on this team that it's not really that much of a concern.
Yeah. But I mean, do you think they need more shooting out of their front court?
I mean, they only have one guy that's really producing for them at a high level. I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
That's DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely.
You only need one. Like if you have somebody like DeMarcus Cousins, though, do you only need one great guy, and then you put 2 or 3 other complementary players that you can tag in basically, and have them shot blockers, rebounders, facilitators, and Sabonis, or big time shot blockers in Davis. I mean, do you think they need? Do you think that's really something that they need? A 4 that can stretch the floor, or a 5 that can stretch the floor?
I don't think so. I think the best thing for them is a player that's just gonna get it done on both ends of the floor. A big that's gonna get it done on both ends of the floor. I think Sabonis definitely fits that mold.
Yeah. Well, do you think you take Jakob Podol then at that point?
Oof.
Maybe trade Kufos away.
I mean, you could. You know what? He's definitely more of a big time prospect, I would think.
Or do you go with somebody more complete? I mean, here's my biggest question that's gonna round it off. Do you think Sacramento's in a position where next season they could start flirting with a playoff spot, or are they at the point where let's have a project, let's build in a year? Do you want somebody, say Bryce Johnson, even who had big time numbers, pretty good defender, shot blocker? I mean, do you want somebody at Bryce Johnson's level? I know Bryce Johnson doesn't have the same potential that some of these other guys do. Or do you want somebody like Jakob Podol or who's that kid from Marquette that you mentioned, Ellison?
Yeah.
Do you want a prospect? Do you want another prospect that you can have in 2 years that might have higher potential than Bryce Johnson, but you know what you have out of Bryce Johnson now? Like, is that one of those, gray areas? What do you think? Like,
I think with this team, they've kind of come and gone with prospects. I mean, even you could even consider Mackel more a prospect, but he just never panned out the way they wanted.
Yeah, I think that was that same draft that we always rip on, the 2013 draft when we drafted.
You know what? I think they just need to go after somebody more complete in this draft.
Yeah, you think so? So who would your so we've gotten our options down. Who's your go-to guy now?
You know, I'm looking for a guy that's probably in his 20s already. You know, if you're looking for a big guy, you know, that's really kind of developed.
So say a player's name. Say your player's name that you would get.
I personally would go after, you know, it may be a little high, but if I'm looking at top two options, I'm looking at Sabonis or Bryce Johnson.
Okay. Yeah, those actually, well, you know, those are exactly the ones that I was going to say. You know, unless if they trade Rudy Gay. Again, if they trade Rudy Gay, it's a different story. They got, you know, they might want to go out and get a higher pick and maybe get somebody like Jaylen Brown or Jamal Murray.
Because they can make more immediate. They can make more immediate effects than these guys could.
Yeah, definitely. Or somebody like Sabonis who can, you know, facilitate a little bit, create some offense. Or somebody like Bryce Johnson who can come in ready and block shots now. You know, is that one of those questions you have to answer and they definitely have the holes at that front court spot, but they really only have three really good bigs at this point in time. And that's kind of up for debate as it is, but they definitely got enough shooting. So I look for, you know, just to fit the system with Jaeger, I'd look for a defensive player, maybe, or, you know, somebody. Bryce Johnson keeps coming up for me because I just like he put up really dominant numbers. He can come in and if you're really he's more of an offensive. He's more offensively
complete than Cauley Stein as well.
I agree. I agree with that.
He kind of fit.
He'd be the type of guy that could start with DeMarcus Cousins too.
I agree. I definitely.
It's kind of interesting. So I'm intrigued by that. But what did the mock draft? The mock draft said they were going to take Chris Dunn.
Yes.
That's kind of silly.
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, they've already got Collinson, who's a really solid backup, and they've got Rondo at their starting.
Great. And if they keep, you know, the funny part is they love playing Collison and Rondo together. So they really like playing Collison and kind of off on that combo guard role and have him score a little bit more. And that's a really smart idea for them.
I definitely agree.
They like playing Seth Curry as a two. He's another combo guard kind of player. Yeah, I mean, really, this team doesn't need any more guards, but they definitely need another body that they can have on the front line. And, you know, it's just, again, for me, it just depends on what they're looking for. If they're looking for somebody that can come in now, then I'd go with Bryce Johnson or Sabonis. But, you know, if you're looking long term, maybe I'd go with somebody like Jakob Poeltl or, who else were we saying?
Ellenson. Or Ellenson.
You know,
yeah.
Somebody like that, you know?
I agree, man. I think that really sums up things for tonight, guys. You know, it's been a year in review of Sacramento Kings, and we'll be back with more year in reviews of all 30 NBA teams.
Yeah.
You guys have a good night, guys.
I think you got it.